Hey, welcome to the Artist Credibility Blueprint. I wanted to, go a little deeper in this video than the PDF is going to do on its own. Maybe bring some clarity to you, and I think that people retain a lot more information when they have the ability to look at it and listen to someone explain it. Okay, so I need to put this into present mode. All right, Artist Credibility Blueprint by me, Chris Haggerty Jr. All right, so table of contents. So we're going to go brief introduction, then we're going to go through the magazine dream team, your why, your story, your avatar, the pitch, and how to follow up, and then a little conclusion, okay? So introduction. Many artists struggle to find their ideal clients. Even when they find them, artists have a hard time charging what they're worth. The blueprint is designed to help you build undeniable credibility while being showcased in front of your ideal audience so you can finally get paid what you deserve. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is, if you get featured in a magazine, it immediately raises that bar of credibility. And not only that, but you're borrowing trust from that magazine, because if the magazine featured you, obviously you're a reputable artist and your work is worth a little bit more money than, say, an Etsy artist. So getting into magazines allowed me to just the first magazine feature I got was with Blue Ridge Outdoors magazine. I got 3 art piece commissions and a total of about $7,000 in revenue. So, and it was just me reaching out to the magazines, and I'll show you how to do that. So this flow chart here, it starts with the empathy story, and then it goes to the MDT, stands for Magazine Dream Team. So Magazine Dream Team outreach. When you reach out to them, you track that. In the next page, I believe, or a page after that, I have a Trello link. You can just copy that Trello board template, so it makes it easy for you to track, and it alerts you when it's time to follow back up with them. And if you get published, awesome, that'll get you clients, but you also want to, you can see the arrow goes over the top back to track. You want to track that you got published by them. They go into a different column in the Trello board. And if you get clients, you get paid, obviously. If you don't get published, you see it goes down to the follow-up tab, and you want to track that when you follow up with them, and you also want to track, you want to follow up and you'll get published, therefore clients, and get paid. Okay. The Magazine Dream Team. So if you have ever been in the ClickFunnels marketing world, then you might know of a guy named Dana Derricks. Dana Derricks pioneered a topic called the Dream 100. Basically, the Dream 100 is you find the 100 people who you'd want to be business partners with, and you get on their radar, and you keep reaching out to them in different ways until you're able to eventually do a JV with them. You build that relationship. So the Magazine Dream Team is a similar concept. We're going to find 100 at least magazines that would fit your artwork, whether it be due to the demographic of the readers or just the subject matter. Say you do animal portraiture and it's a wildlife magazine, then it would be a great fit and you could tell them your story. So I wrote Magazine Dream Team. The magazine features are a powerful and often overlooked tool for artists to showcase their work and increase their visibility. They also build undeniable credibility, allowing you to finally charge what you deserve. Like I said, when I got that magazine feature, the first piece that came in, I actually charged double what I had charged for that same price last time, because I just wanted to see if it would work. And it was like okay, almost made me think maybe I didn't even charge enough still. But the sales that came in from that were very smooth and easy sales. And the people were very, very excited to work with me because they had found me in a magazine. So the Magazine Dream Team is a list of magazines that you want your art to be featured in, local or national, print or online. And we want to focus on print magazines, because typically the people that are still receiving print magazines in the mail, they have disposable income. And if we want to charge higher prices for our art, having disposable income is definitely a plus for the demographic. Now, I also wrote, this is not the first step. You could start doing this. If you have a really good idea of where your art would fit in, you could start making this list of magazines. But it's a continuous thing. So as you evolve as an artist, as your pitch and your story evolve, And as you start checking magazines off your list, you want to continually add to this list, so you can continue this system of reaching out, getting published, tracking those, and building those relationships. So we'll start by researching the different magazines which cover your subject matter. Look for both established and niche publications, or niche, however you want to pronounce it. Create a list of the magazines in Trello. I have linked at the bottom here. It says you can download the Trello template I created here. That's your best bet. Create a list of magazines in Trello that you feel will be a good fit. Aim for 100, but start with 10 and continue adding to the list as you discover new publications. Use a tool like Trello, like I said, to track and organize your list of magazines. Keep the list updated as you research new publications and pitch to existing ones. So I have in my Trello board, basically, I start in the Magazine Dream Team column. You'll see that when you open it up. It's the first column. And I'll write the name, and I'll find the email, and I'll put it there. Once I've emailed them, or there's also a contacted via Instagram, I'll comment in that little card. If you've never used Trello, this will make a lot more sense once you open it up. It's like a little digital card. And then I'll comment emailed on, January 17th, 23. Then I'll drag it to the email column. That email column will automatically attach a deadline to it, which is 2 months out, and stick it over in the follow-up in 2 months column. Excuse me. Same thing for the Instagram one. You would put contacted on Instagram, and then you slide it to that column. It attaches a 2-month follow-up thing and brings it to the follow-up in 2 months column. You can if you want to be the most effective, you want to reach out both in in email and in Instagram. Right now, I'm focusing on email because it's just what I did for a lot of these. Although I did get a feature off of Instagram as well, so that's why I kept it in the Trello board. Let's move on. Discover your why. So most marketers and marketing programs will teach you to, who's your ideal client? I found that art is way different, and that's what made, that's what I think made my marketing journey with this so difficult, because like finding who you want to sell to first makes so much sense when you have a product that appeals to a certain customer, a certain demographic, whether that's digital or physical product. But when it comes to art is interpreted differently by everybody who views it. So I wanted you to discover your why first, because then you're able to speak to why you create it, why it means so much to you. So I wrote, understanding your own motivation and purpose as an artist is crucial for creating a deeper connection with your audience and increasing your visibility and credibility. At one point, I lost sight of my why. It was actually over the summer, and I walked away from art completely for 2 months. I was getting ready to move on to marketing for different types of businesses, because like it made sense for me for other businesses, but not this one. And I had done an interview with actually Blue Ridge Outdoors magazine, but it wasn't published yet. I forgot about it. And then, 2 months later or whatever it was, it shows up in my mailbox, and so I was like, oh man, I completely forgot about this. And so I, looking for the page, it's actually right here. And I turned to the page, and like, it just, first of all, it hit me. It was like, oh my gosh. And, reading my own story back to me, like really brought me back to, where I came from before art, was a part of my life. I wasn't always an artist or anything like that. And it like really saved me from a dark place. So, it reminded me of that. It reminded me of how far I come and all the people I've met and helped them with their art needs and the things that they've told me about their art and what it did for them. So like it really reminded me of my why, and I had lost sight of that. I was just trying to get as many clients through the door as possible and wound up burning myself out. So I read this. I knew I had to get back into it. And then that's when I realized that this was a huge opportunity, because it was either, one person contacted me within 2 days, and the next person contacted me within a week. and those turned into sales right away. So I was like, oh man, I wish I would have kept reaching out to these magazines, because I only reached out to a few. So that's when I knew I need to build up a system to do this so I can repeatedly reach out to them every 2 months. And I chose 2 months because I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but if I'm reaching out to share my story with a magazine, I don't want to reach out to them every month because I feel like it might be, I mean, for lack of a better word, annoying. So I decided that every 2 months I would reach out to them, and I've got it in my Trello board. I've got about 100 magazines on there, 100 publications, whichever. Some of them are actually blogs, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget to keep reaching out to these places, and I added lots and lots more to the list so that I had a better chance of getting published. So your why is what drives you. It can be felt by your audience and your clients. The people know when you're fishing for sales and you're desperate. They can just sense it. And if you're really like trying to get sales because you need money, trust me, I know, I've been there. That financial roller coaster really sucks. But if you are just trying to sell art, the people know, and you're not going to come through as authentic as the artist. So don't let your need for clients ever make you lose your why, because that's the most important part of selling art, in my opinion. The goal is to gain a deeper understanding of your own art and use this knowledge to connect with potential buyers. So you might think like, oh, what's my why? I don't have a why. I've been painting all my life, or I grew up doing this, or I took college and I just kept doing that. That's how I was at first. I didn't think anything of what I was creating. It just felt like it was so simple, because it came naturally to me, and I guess I kind of wrote that off. But it's not just because it's simple to you, or it doesn't amaze you, doesn't mean it's simple or boring to other people. So some of the questions that I wrote that I figured would help you figure that out is like, when did you start creating it? Why did you start creating it? Right. So for me, it was about 5 years ago. I was in a really dark place mentally, with a job that was like consuming my life. And I never really got out in nature. I didn't get to see my family anymore. We didn't get to go out in nature anymore, which is like the things that I love. And I believe God inspired me to create this stuff because I never had any. This is like wood and resin. I've never had any woodworking experience or art experience. So it was just, it really felt like God inspired me to create these things to bring nature back into my life. So that's part of the story that I tell. Why did I choose the subject matter? I love rivers. Rivers are where my family and I go all the time. We live in Greenville, South Carolina, so there's like tons of rivers, and that either north of here, North Carolina, or out in the mountains, that is our place to go to relax, recharge, get some inspiration. So it feels so natural to me to make these pieces, and it's a very relaxing experience. I get lost in it, so that's why I make mine. What does this art mean to you? So for me, I'm trying to give you examples based on my story and my answers to these questions. Okay. So what the art means to me, now that I've, really dug deep and figured it out, is that rivers don't stop just because there's like a boulder in the way or some kind of obstacle. Rivers will always find a way to get around it, or go through it, or over it, push it out of the way, and they'll keep going. So, and I felt like that's kind of like how life is. When when life throws obstacles in your way, you can't just like stop there and give up. You have to keep pushing, and you have to get through it in order to get to be the person you're supposed to be. What causes do you support through your art? So currently, I don't support causes. I mean, I'm with my art anyway, but you might have some. It might be the reason you started. There might be some cause that you donate to specifically with every art sale. That's up to you. Why do you create them like this? Honestly, like I'm a huge fan of wood grain. I fell in love with doing the woodworking part of it, and resin just came naturally to me. I like working with the material. I've tried lots of different types of resin, and I wanted to create a super realistic feel. So I added sand and stones and whitewater accents, things like that. Um, how have you benefited from your art? So for me, that's one of the most powerful parts of my story. Um, like I mentioned earlier, and that's because it saved my life. Like I was really trying to figure out a way out of that dark place I was in, and if it weren't for this, I don't know, where I'd be, or what condition I'd be in right now. What feelings does it bring me? Inspiration, relaxation, hope. These pieces, are like a reminder of what I've been through. And I know that that resonates with a lot of other people that have purchased my art. Is that, either they're nature enthusiasts and things like that, but they also resonate with the fact that, rivers are these powerful things in nature that don't stop for anything. And, there's lots of twists and turns in rivers, but, they keep on going. Um, and what memories does it bring back? Um, Okay, so my wife and I used to go to the Maury River in Virginia when I was in the Navy. We would go there like any chance we got. There was this one pull off on River Road in Goshen Pass. It was absolutely gorgeous, and we've spent countless hours there. We've brought some of our family there. That was like our, I hate to use the word, but our like happy place. And so, that's one memory that brings back. There's memories from when I was a kid, rafting with my father, going camping on his land, things like that. So really take some time, discover your why. It's probably the most important part of this because in the next part we're going to be talking about your story, and I call it an empathy story because it really is understanding you on a deep level and speaking basically through your art through your clients or to your clients. I mean, so write your empathy story. Your empathy story is the type of story that allows your audience to see themselves in your words and experiences. And when you share it, your listeners are able to fully immerse themselves in the story and feel like they're on the journey with you. It creates a deep sense or a deep connection with your audience and positions you as the solution to their needs or problems. Um, and I wrote at the bottom, in order to be considered for a magazine feature, there needs to be a compelling story for the readers. So, right. So not only does the subject matter have to match, or the topic of your story match, it has to be something worth reading. And there's a lot of ways to do this. I put like a basic framework after this on the next couple slides as an example. It's not something you have to stick to like completely. You find your own groove. This is, again, it's a continuous process. You're going to continue to refine it. You're going to wind up like with way too much story. You're going to wind up chopping it down. When you get a magazine feature, you'll find the questions that they ask you kind of help you to tailor your story a little bit. But it's when you get it right, the people that hear it that will buy your art, there's not going to be a question in their mind that they want to buy it. You're going to be their go-to person because you speak to them on a deeper level. Excuse me. All right, so this is an example outline, like I said. So in any outline, this first step is the most important because if you don't get them with the very beginning of your story, they're not going to read the rest. So the rest could be a masterpiece, but if you don't get them in the beginning with what's called a hook, then they're not even going to read the rest. So the first sentence or two sentences of your story needs to be a hook. It needs to be high drama, kind of like cliffhanger feeling, so that when they read it, they're like, "Oh man, I gotta see, what this is about." So things to consider: what is the most interesting or unique aspect of your art or story, right? So that should say, I should change that to or your why, but a unique aspect of your art or your why, but your story. How can you grab the reader's attention and set the tone for your story? Like, what do you want them to feel when they're reading your story, right? What can you say to make the reader want to keep reading? So the hook is, it's always going to be step one, because that's, um, like I said, without the hook, you're not going to have anybody reading your story. Background or context. What's the background or context for your story? How does this provide context for the event or situation you'll be describing? And what's the setting or environment of your story? Okay, so I'll give you I'll do steps 1 and 2 based on my story. So, like, my story starts with 5 years ago, art saved my life. Then I give the background or context where I said I got out of the Navy and I landed a 6-figure job and was consuming my life. I didn't have time for my family or to get out in nature. So those are the types of things that I put into my story. Event or situation. What's the event or situation that your story's about? How did it unfold or progress? And what were the main challenges or obstacles you faced during this event or situation? So for me, like I said, I was in a dark place mentally. I was looking for a way out. And I believe God inspired me to start creating these things. Now, if we went deeper into the story and expanded it a bit, it would have things like, my wife asked me to make a couple things for the house. And so I decided to try my hand in some woodworking. And I realized that when I was doing the woodworking, I was able to finally take my mind off of the fact that I hated my job. And that was all I constantly thought about every single day, day in and day out, because I was there almost all of my waking hours. So when I was able to focus on something completely different, I was like, oh my gosh, I know that this is what I need to be doing. All right. How did this event or situation affect you personally? What did you learn from it? And what insights or takeaways can you share with the reader? So this is also something that's really important, because it helps you write it in a way that benefits the readership, especially the magazines. So you can tell the editor that you've got that this is the reason that it would benefit their readers. Okay. It affected me personally, because I was able to get myself out of that dark place. I realized that there's a lot more to life than, just working for work's sake and just scraping by and, working my life away for the next 40 years till I could retire. I realized that, through my art, I was able to find that sense of resilience and find that hope to continue on. And I was able to relate more to, the subject matter because of what rivers represent to me, like I mentioned earlier. And then you want to conclude with, how do you want the reader to feel after your story? What message or lesson do you want them to take away? And how can you encourage the reader to take action or to purchase your art? So this is the conclusion is important, because it's the feeling that they're going to be left with, right? So I would leave it with telling them that, what my art represents is represents, resilience and hope and perseverance, things like that. And that anybody that's going through a hard time, should keep pushing, or relate to them saying something along the lines of, you got to where you are today because of your resilience and perseverance, things like that. So they feel it. They feel accomplished, and they feel good about themselves when they read it. And that at the end, like it says, the last sentence here, how can you encourage the reader to take action or view or purchase your art? That's super important, because your story could be amazing, but if you don't tell them to hey, visit X website, or, click here to purchase this piece, or, however the article goes, if it's about a specific piece you did, you want to give them a way to go and either buy the original or prints, or take action to book a call with you for a commission, things like that. So you want to make them feel good at the end about themselves, and then give them a call to action, like to come buy your art or follow you on Instagram, or whatever your preferred goal for this magazine feature is. All right, so now into how a regular marketer would tell you to start with your avatar. Now we're going to start talking about our avatar, and I'll tell you why. So like I wrote, most marketing advice will tell you to start here, but art is different. I didn't get into creating art. This is for real. I didn't get into creating art in order to make it for people. I had no intention of making this and selling it. I remember even talking to a buddy of mine. He was another woodworker, and I said to him, I was like, I don't even want to sell these. I'm just making these because I love doing it. I'm going to make my money doing X, Y, or Z, right? So I had no intention of actually selling it. Actually, for the first 2 years, I didn't even try selling it. People would buy it. I made sales, but I wasn't ever trying to market it as selling it. I was really just doing content creation. So personally, I was in a really dark place mentally, and the art was my way out of that darkness. It was and still is for me. It is. I do this for me. I like selfishly, I don't do this for other people. I understand that it does help other people, and I'm very glad that it does. And I've been able to develop a story that resonates with them, so they see how my art can actually help them. And it's taken me a long time to realize that it's helping them. And if you're in that place too, you need to realize that your art is actually helping people. It isn't just something to put on their wall. Like, there's a reason that somebody's connecting with your art and buying it. People don't buy art and go out and be like, oh, this looks nice, I'm going to hang, unless they're going to Hobby Lobby or something like that and they just need something to hang on the wall. That's a little different. But if they're contacting an artist, there's a reason. If they're buying from an artist, there's a reason they're buying it. It's because it's connecting with them emotionally, not just like logically, I need to fill this space on the wall. So this is why I put your story and your why first. You and your story are what separates you from all the other talented artists out there. Because you might do, high detail paintings of cars. I follow a lot of people on Instagram that do high detail paintings of cars. I don't know if I'd ever buy from one of them, but there might be one that talks about, so before I started, or when I was going on to this journey and I was leaving my job, we cut all our expenses. And one of the things that I did was I had a little hot rod Cadillac CTSV. I put a lot of work into it. It was pretty fast and it was loud. I'm sure my neighbors loved it when I started at 4 a.m. to go to work. Gosh. We're coming home at 5 in the morning. Anyway, if I found an artist that had a similar story where like they wanted to make their art full time and they sold their car, but they knew they were passionate about cars, so they kept cars in their life by painting cars, and they were eventually able to get back into it. Like, if they had a story like that, dude, I'd be buying all of their art. I'd be buying anything that was tailored to a car that I like or a car that I had. So you really can't underestimate your story. Just because your art looks great doesn't make people want to buy from you. You need to make it so that you're connecting with them. So it's still necessary to find the people who would most likely resonate with your art. And it's also important to remember that this is a continuous process as you and your art evolve over time. Everything in marketing and sales and creation of art, everything evolves over time. You get better as an artist. You change as a person, right? You get stronger, or you go through, I don't want to say tragedy, but you go through tragedy, or you have some amazing experiences in your life. These things all shape who you are as a person, and it will be reflected in your art, especially the more skilled you get as you create. So the typical things when you're looking to find who would resonate with your art, simple things like demographics, right? How old are they? What gender? Maybe where do they live? What types of things are they into? Because that'll influence how much money they have. But more importantly, the psychographics of a person is who is most likely to be interested in your art. So psychographics are what drives a person. What are their interests, their desires, their pain points, those types of things. If you can figure those out about your clients, then you're going to be really able to tailor your story more towards that. There might be some things in your story that are just like small details, but if you find that those are the people that resonate with that detail tend to start buying your art, you can lean into that detail and focus your story more on that. That's why I said it's constantly going to evolve. You're going to be refining it. You might make it longer. You might make it shorter. But it's to never. The goal is to never lose sight of your why and to continually tell your story, because getting your story out there, the more you may say your story a million times and it's going to get really old to you, but there's going to be new people hearing your story over and over again. And when you post on social media, only like 1% of the people are seeing your posts, right? So your audience isn't getting sick of your story, just you are. And that's okay. You can get sick of your story. but you need to keep putting it out there because your story is what's going to draw people into you. It's what's going to help people, and ultimately it's going to get them to buy your art. So understand their interests, needs, and pain points related to your story and subject matter, and determine what benefits your art would provide to them. So I'll just keep reading because the point I was going to make is also made at the bottom. This is easier for nature art or animal portraiture, right? Because you're able to find, for me, right? It's nature art, it's rivers. I can find outdoor enthusiasts, nature enthusiasts, people like hiking, camping, mountain biking, canoeing, kayaking, river, whitewater rafting, things like that. Like that's like common sense. But like, what about abstract art? Now my art has a bit of abstract to it, but I like the realism of my art. I've made some abstract stuff in the past, but when I think about abstract, and if you have a better method than this as an abstract artist, you can lean into that as well. But what I see when I connect with artists, personally, like I said, this is my personal, this is how I connect with abstract artists, is when they lean into their why more, right? Because if you are creating this art to convey a certain emotion based on that, and you talk about that all the time, the people who like your art will tend to agree with that's the emotion that's coming through in it, and then they will want to buy it if that's the emotion that they want to bring home, or if that's the emotion that they can relate with. So that's another reason why it's like super important to know your why. It's super important to keep telling your story, because those types of things, when you lean into them, are what's going to get the people to buy your art. Okay. And then also you can look at past clients for commonalities and say, oh, maybe the people that like this and this tend to like my art, and try and figure that out, why that is. Okay, the pitch. So once you have your story and you've refined it a whole bunch, right? You go back and edit it. There's a quote. Oh gosh, I don't want to butcher it, and I can't remember who it's by, but it goes like, "Perfection isn't adding more. Perfection is when you can't take any more away." And that really, for copywriting and storytelling, like it's really important. You don't need a million extra details in it because people fall asleep. People don't want to read that. Our brains are wired to conserve calories, and as soon as our brain starts feeling like there's a difficulty in reading, or it's boredom, and your brain will subconsciously tell you, like, okay, stop reading, you can move on, just click away. Like it will try and drive you away from the story. So this is especially important in the pitch, because you want to be able to get the gist of your story across without giving away your entire story, and you want to kind of leave them like looking to read more. You want them to want more, right? So a well-crafted pitch is crucial for convincing magazines to publish your work. It should showcase the value of your work. It should showcase the value your work brings to the magazine's readership. When I originally wrote that, it sounded a lot clearer, but basically, like, what does your art do for their readership? You need to remember that if you want a magazine to publish your art, there has to be a benefit to the readership, whether whether that's because your story is very good, which is possible, or your art is has a very powerful message that would benefit their audience. That's what they want. Like, you could be the best artist in the world, but if it's not going to benefit their audience, they're not going to put it in their magazine, because there's no point. They are in the business of pleasing their audience, so their audience gives them money. Ideally, you want to tailor the pitch slightly to each magazine so they don't feel as though it's a mass sent cookie cutter email. So this isn't something I always do. I do it sometimes, especially when there's something very specific I can call out, when it's very, very, very related to my art, or I find something about the editor that relates to my art or my story. You can call that out in the email. But I'll be honest with you, 99 out of 100 times, the tailoring I do is when I can find the editor's name and I know that the email is going directly to them. It will say, "Hi, name. Otherwise, it's high because I don't know if it's going to that person. And then in a blurb at the bottom, it'll say like, I feel that my, art and story would benefit your audience in the whatever magazine. So like you change that every time. One word of caution though, make sure that if you're sending out a lot of emails that you are making sure that you're sending it to the right email and the right magazine is listed in your email. You don't want to send like Backpacker Magazine something and it says like, Kayak Session Magazine or something. Those are just two that I've sent to. That's why they're on my mind. But so if you're going to go that route, the other route, like I said, 99 times out of 100, like I can't find the editor's name right away to make it efficient. This is where research comes in. So your next emails, you can do a little better. But you want to get them out there, right? I've had luck using the same email. It starts with hi, like why I'm contacting them, the hook, a watered down, or I don't want to say watered down, but a light version of your story that ends in a way that gets them to want to read more and they can see the benefit that it has to their readers. Tell them the benefit it would have to their readers, or that you feel it would benefit their readers, and that you'd be honored to be in their magazine. And then, a sign off which has like your name, your website, so they can see more of your art. I don't send pictures. Okay. Like link to your gallery on there. If you don't have a gallery, reach out to me, chrishaggertyart@gmail.com, and just put in the subject line, I need a gallery. Okay. And I'll see if I can help you out with that. But you need to tell them your story and tell them it would benefit their audience. And then I always put something in like, if you want to make sure my art is a good fit for your magazine, view my gallery here. And then, I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, so-and-so, so-and-so.com, Instagram.com/so-and-so, email, phone number, or whatever. So, a few ways for them to contact you. And for speed, I've reached out to lots of magazines where I just copy the whole thing. I make sure there's nothing that says a name or a magazine name in it. And, I've sent it that way and I've gotten responses that way too. So if your story's really good and your hook's really good, it won't feel cookie cutter anyway. Because everybody that sends a cookie cutter email is not telling a gripping story, which is what you need to do as an artist. So create a compelling opening sentence or phrase that will grab the editor's attention and make them want to read more. They have lots of emails to sift through. They do. They're an editor of a magazine. Every single article that's in that magazine, they probably have to approve. Every ad. So they're busy people. Make sure your email is worth reading. Share a brief version of your empathy story, highlighting how your story would benefit the magazine's target audience. Like I said, leave them with a cliffhanger that will make them curious to know more. Don't make it too long. This is why it's a light version of your empathy story, okay? Editors are extremely busy. Write a few different pitches and alternate them when you follow up with magazines that didn't respond. So you don't want to send out an email to XYZ magazine, stick it in your Trello board, follow up in 2 months and send them the same email. That is garbage, because if they read your first one and then they see your second one you didn't put any effort in other than copying and pasting, they're going to blow right over you. Make sure, like, before you send out a follow-up email, to like cycle through emails. Like, my advice would be the first batch of emails, only send out one pitch, or send out 2 pitches and see which one works better. The only problem with that is some of these emails aren't even going to get seen. So, but if they find your email and they like you and they look to see if you've been seen in the past and it's the same email, you have a less chance of getting picked up, okay? So write like 4 or 5 different pitches so that when you're following up with them, you can send a new one, okay? And follow up, tracking and follow up. This is so important because, like I said, editors are very, very busy. I'm sure they get hundreds of emails. I get hundreds of emails a day. Like, all day long, I get marketing emails. And for some reason, they always end up in my primary, not my promotion. So no matter how many times I flagged them to go there. So you can only imagine how many they are getting especially work important ones, other people pitching them. You're not going to be the only people pitching the magazine. So don't skip this follow-up part. If you look back at the flow chart, you'll see that tracking and follow-up have multiple arrows to and from. I'm going to scroll back really quick so you can see that, okay? So you've got your empathy story we talked about, your magazine dream team outreach. Then you're going to track that you sent it to them, okay? Now this should make a little more sense to you that we've been through it. Track it in Trello. If you get published, awesome. You're going to want to track that, okay? And then if you don't get published, you want to put that into your follow-up so that you follow up, and you still want to track that, right? Every time you send them an email, put a date on it, who the email went to. And each time you might get a little more information from these, emails. Sometimes they follow up and say, hey, now's not a really good time. Or I made the mistake of saying like, hey, I was just featured in blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I'd love to be in yours. They were like, oh, due to your recent, publications, we like to feature things that haven't been published recently. So I kind of like shot myself in the foot there. I thought it was going to build me credibility for them, and it didn't. So that's another hint. Maybe put it in or don't. It's something you have to test. But there's always going to be follow-up. When you get published, you're going to track that, and you're going to follow up. Don't just follow up with the people that didn't publish you. You want to do that, but you also want to follow up with the people that did publish you, because you can build those relationships with them and maybe get multiple pieces, or multiple publications for the same magazine. Or if that editor moves to a different magazine or a different, source, which they do, think about how many jobs you might have had. You didn't stay with the same company forever. So they may move to a different publication. And if you've built that relationship with them, you could even send them a small print or something if they publish you, just to build that rapport with them. That's going to go a long way down the road for getting published. And the more you get published, the more credibility you have, the more people will desire your art. You can start building a wait list of clients, and you could charge those higher prices, which is the goal. The goal is not to create 1 million pieces of art a year, right? The goal is to create a comfortable amount of art where you don't bring yourself out, you can keep yourself inspired, and you can make a good living off of it, okay? So I'm going to scroll back. Sorry. So use the Trello board template. It says grab it here. You should be able to click that to keep track of your magazine dream team. When and who you emailed, especially like if one was a specific name, you can write their name and everything like that. So when you go to write the email, you could just copy and paste their name into the hi, whatever. And then you could write if they responded, if they published you, any other details, literally any details that you can get from that interaction. Got an autoresponder says this email is bad, and then you can try a different email to email them with, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the Trello board template, the Trello board template will automatically move your cards once you type them into the magazine dream team. You do your email. You'll have your list of magazine dream team. You do your email. You add that comment to your card, and then you drag it to emailed. And that emailed column will immediately add a timer to it and stick it in the follow-up in 2 months. It's just, if you have a better way of doing it, by all means. It just seemed like a logical way for me to do it, and it's worked. So if you don't have any other way to track it, just use that board. It's going to bring you to an open board. Just make a copy of it. In the first card on that board, I literally wrote in the comments how you can make a copy of that board to put it in your own. They call it a workspace. If you've never used Trello before, it will make a lot of sense once you sign up for it. It's free, by the way. There are paid features and stuff, but I just use free. Okay, so I wrote, the template will automatically set a deadline to follow up in 2 months' time. You should also follow up prior to holidays with editors who publish you. Yes, you're trying to build that relationship, right? So if, XYZ magazine published you, send a friendly, email to them before, Memorial Day weekend. Like, I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. Stay safe. Look forward to speaking with you in the future. Something just simple, just keep your top of mind. That not enough people do that. And that's where most businesses, most artists, most marketers fall flat is in the follow-up. If you talk to any like marketer who's worth their, who's worth a darn, they're going to tell you that the fortune is in the follow-up. It's so crucial to follow up, because the first time you email someone that has no idea who you are, they might blow you off. They might not see it. They might not care. You might catch them on a bad day. Who knows, right? They might not have an opening, so they don't even bother. But then the third time you follow up with them, it might be like, oh man, like one of the emails that I sent out, like I never got a response, and I was about to follow up, and she reached out to me. She was like, hey, our what's it called? Our feature for, next month fell through. If you're available for an interview and a photo shoot, before X date, I would love to have you in the magazine. I was like, yeah, of course. So you never know when you're catching them. You never know if they're keeping on, they might read your story and really love it, but not have the time to reply, and they're just holding on to it. Follow up. It's so important. And not just following up, but tracking every bit of follow-up you do. So my goal for artists like you is to get featured in as many magazines as possible. It'll gain you undeniable credibility, and you'll be able to charge what you deserve. Too many artists out there are charging like $35 for a painting, and they say, oh, well, it's because it's small. Go look at Chuck Black, okay? ChuckBlackArt.com, or I think it's wildlifeandart.com is his actual webpage. To get I think it's a 9x12 from him, or an 8x11 or something like that, that's $900. Like, super talented artist. He's one of my favorites. I cannot wait to get one of his pieces. But his small originals are $900 at least. So why aren't you charging that much? You can gain credibility here. Like, I'll be the first to admit, when I first started doing this, I was like, oh my gosh, nobody would pay for it. Who am I? Why would anybody pay for that? But like, when I got into the magazines, like, I had already started trying to raise my prices, but like, when you're fishing for those high prices, like, people can feel that. But now it's confidence. Like, no, I've been in magazines. Like, people have reached out to me because of these magazines, like, and they are willing to pay that. So I know that there's other people to pay that are willing to pay that now. It's a huge boost of confidence. The people that find you in the magazines will have that trust built in, because it's a magazine that you're featured in, that they read and have come to their house every day. And it was like you were delivered to them, right? So getting in these magazines is going to be a huge boost for credibility, and huge boost for self-esteem for you to justify raising your prices. The blueprint outlines the steps I've taken to get featured in print and online magazines, leading to many thousands of dollars in commissions and print sales. If you take the time to go through this methodically, like really go through this, and you craft your empathy story, you continue to refine that, and you pitch as many editors as you can, follow up, I truly believe you'll be featured in a bunch of magazines, not just one. The more you follow up and the more you keep this process, the more you add to that list, this can be your source of advertising. And the only thing it costs you is a little bit of research and sticking these things into a system that reminds you to do it, so that you don't forget. You can forget about Facebook ads. You can forget about TikTok ads. You can forget about making tons and tons of content. Putting the work in to do these emails will save you time, okay? Or in the long run. If you can get consistently featured, where you're getting a feature a month or a feature at least every quarter, this can be your main source of advertising. So shoot for as many as you can. Keep those follow-ups going. Keep researching, finding new magazines and stuff. Now, I will say, magazine features are awesome. However, like, I just had one that replied to me, and they don't want to go straight to a magazine feature. They want to do a social media post for me first. Awesome. I'll take that. You're putting me in front of your audience, right? That's going to be incredibly valuable too. And then if that goes well and they have a great response from their audience, guess what? They're going to take that and they're going to stick it in their magazine. Okay. So magazines are what we're shooting for. You might get in touch with people who give you other options, which is also great, especially because if I were to call that magazine and ask, hey, can I get a paid feature? Like, it's probably going to be hundreds of dollars just for the one. But if you can get all these emails going out in a system where you continually follow up and you have a great story to go with it, you will get featured in magazines. Okay. Just commit. You can get through this. It'll be awesome. Now, here's my thank you page. If you want help with this process, I'm here for you. Okay. You can schedule a free call with me, a free strategy call. The link here, it should be clickable. If not, just copy and paste it into your browser. I'm not charging you for this call. Okay. If you have any questions, want some clarification on your story, things like that, feel free to reach out. Like, I love helping people with this. And to be honest, the more people I help, the better I get with it and the more people I can help. So it works in everyone's favor. I will say though, and I'm not trying to pitch you here, but I am considering for a select few people, because it is time consuming, to do it for you. That would not be free, but I can write the story with you, and then I could do all the outreach and all the follow-up and everything like that. I could put that into my system and do that for you. But that's for a later discussion. If you want to talk about, where you need specific help with this, whether it's in writing your story or coming up with a hook or just things like that, book a free strategy call with me and, do the best I can to get you into these magazines. Okay. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this really provided value. I think that giving my personal experiences, my personal answers, my personal story with this, should provide you the value and the confidence you need to be able to go ahead and get this done on your own. If you need my help, book a call with me. I'd love to talk. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it.